What's up? This is Ray. Welcome back. Hey, we're going to be reviewing some audio gear today. And if you read the title, you probably realize that this is something that's probably almost perfect. That's something I've never said before when it comes to the microphones I've reviewed and the wireless systems I've reviewed. This is the Hollyland Lark 150. It's a high-end wireless mic. And man, it comes with some features that I didn't even ask for. So over the years, I've reviewed many mics and wireless mics, and some of them were good. Some of them transmitted really far, but they had static. Some of them sounded good, but wouldn't transmit far. Some of them, a lot of them use AA batteries. You can't recharge them. All of them have good qualities, but they never were perfect. So when Hollyland reached out to me and asked me to test this, would I like to test it? And I looked at the features, I was kind of shocked. There's no way this could check all the boxes and be so perfect. When I got it and took it out the box, I was stunned. I had to show it to my wife. She's not even into this stuff. You're listening to it right now. This is one of the transmitters right here. And you see how small it is? It's amazing. So yeah, if you're curious about a quality high-end wireless mic that does everything it's supposed to do, stick around. We're going to be checking out the Hollyland Lark 150 perfect wireless mic set. Stay tuned. One really cool feature about this kit is that the case that they come in actually charges both transmitters and the receiver with its built-in battery. You charge that case with a USB-C adapter, and it's able to charge all the units about 2.5 times before you need to recharge the case again. And the box that it comes in, the two transmitters and receivers, it's just really well produced. And when you plug it in, you can see how much battery power is left in the transmitter and the receivers, and if they're full or not. And you can see that on the receiver dial. What I like about the receiver is the display is colored. It's nice in resolution. It doesn't have too much information. It just has exactly what you need. So not too much in the menu. Nice and simple. All right, so I'm going to do something very important for any microphone review. I'm going to do a range test now. This is a worst case scenario because I'm next to a loud highway. There's an airport over there. There's wind blowing. So perfect test of how it'll behave in a worst case scenario. Another thing I want to point out, look how tiny this transmitter is. It doesn't have an antenna on it. Neither does the receiver. So I'm curious how it's going to perform without having an antenna sticking up. Compared to my other wireless system. So yeah, this is going to be a perfect opportunity to see what it does. Let's go. The reason these type of range tests is good is, for example, if you're shooting a wedding and there's a bride and groom coming from a distance or they're giving a speech, you cannot afford to have any glitches during that speech, and you can't have the camera up in their face. So you really want to know what is the working range of the wireless system. I tested this a minute ago and it transmitted to this distance very cleanly, even though my back is to the camera. Let me stop right here. So yeah, most people will never ever go this far from the camera, even me, but it's always good. Let's hear how far it'll go before it starts glitching, if at all. And another interesting thing is when my back to the camera, it's not affecting the performance in any way. Sometimes your body blocking the transmitter may have an effect. So the last time I tested it, right here is where I got some slight glitches. So I know I wouldn't want to stand this far from the camera. Another cool thing I like about this is, if I didn't mention it before, is the fact that it's rechargeable. The transmitter can last, I think, 4.5 hours. And by being able to plug it into the little case in between scenes or shots, it should really last all day. Oh, and I have to point out again, yes, this is the unidirectional microphone. It's not the one that comes with the kit, because otherwise it would have been picking up everything. So let's check it out. The only other thing it's not even a complaint, but the microphone, as I mentioned before, is omnidirectional. It picks up sound all around. And for me, that can be a problem because sometimes a dog will bark outside or a loud truck will go by and it'll pick it up and I'll have to re-record that clip. Whereas if I'm using a unidirectional mic, I can get away with not having to re-record, because it isolates that. So when you're indoors, it's not a big deal, but I always use my particular unidirectional mic, and I plug it into this system when I'm outdoors for that very reason. So just something to keep in mind. It's good to have one of those for when there's loud environment around. One thing really cool and important to mention is a couple weeks ago I did a review of an audio mixer, and I mentioned how good it is to have that, because you'll be able to control the audio and volume going into your camera in case you're in a loud environment. This Lark 150 receiver has 2 gain controls just like that audio mixer, so it's not necessary to have that separately. And right now it's helping because I can put the mic really close to my mouth and I can turn the gain down so that it's really only picking up my voice and not stuff around. And especially since this is an omnidirectional mic, that makes it even more necessary. And I have to point out that you can switch it from a mono to a stereo recording mode, because you may have 2 people using the 2 transmitters. You may want to record one on the left channel and one separately on the right channel, so that you can modulate them differently in editing. Or you can switch it to the stereo mode, where it splits them onto the same left and right channels. I'm not an audio engineer, so those things I wouldn't really be doing at this point. But if you are, it's important to know that you can do that with the 2 separate transmitters. Okay, so as I was editing parts of this video last night, I noticed when I have my headphones on and I listen, I hear a slight noise floor, like a slight hiss in the background from this mic set. Every microphone has what's called a noise floor. They generate their own noise. Some have loud noise floors and some have low. I didn't notice this one until I had the headphones on and was playing it. So yeah, a lot of people may not notice it, but it is there, and I do notice it. It's something I have to point out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to kind of block the wind and listen, see if we can hear it. Yeah, I don't know if you hear it, but what I do is in my editor, there's a noise reduction box that you check, and I adjust it to the lowest level, because it doesn't need a whole lot. But yeah, that's just something I had to point out. And throughout the rest of this video, listen to see if you hear it. You may not. I know my wife probably wouldn't hear it. But it's very important to talk about these things in a microphone review. Hey, let's do a test. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but this transmitter has a built-in mic. You don't need to use a lapel if you want, but it also comes with this furry wind muff. But what I want to do is I want us to see what's the difference with the wind muff and without it. There's kind of a strong wind coming behind me. So let's turn sideways and be quiet. So let's take off the wind muff now. So now let's put the dead cat back on. It should make a difference in windy situations. There's nothing worse than shooting a video for hours, and then when you get home to edit it, you realize all this wind noise is in most of the video and it's unusable, and in some cases you have to go back out and reshoot the whole thing. That's no good. So it's very good that it comes with these, and of course there's 2 of these, one for each of the transmitters, so make sure you use it. Okay, so in the opening of this video I mentioned that this thing is almost perfect. Almost. I'm looking for something to complain about, and the only one thing I can complain about is the clip-on your camera's cold shoe mount. I've heard other reviewers mention this also, that it is too tight. When you try to push it onto the camera, no matter which camera I try, it's always the same. It won't go. It's like even if you force it, and then once I get it on, it's hard to get off. And the problem with that is if you force getting it off, you probably can break the clip mount. So what I had to do, I had to carefully file down the corners and slightly on the inside of the clip so that it can slide onto my cold shoe. Shouldn't have to do that. I'm surprised they didn't catch that in the design phase, but that is the one thing to keep in mind. Definitely you may want to sand down or file down the edges of that to make sure it fits on your camera without being too tight. All right, I'm gonna tell you why I think this thing, the sound, transmit and sound so good. When I went to the Hollyland website, I realized that their specialty is not audio transmission, it's video. They make video transmitters for filmmakers and directors of photography and people making movies. So they're able to pull focus and see remotely what's going on the camera. So the fact that they can transmit clean video on that level means transmitting audio is a piece of cake. And that's why I think this sounds so good with no dropouts. That's why it's so impressive. So if you have time, definitely check out their website. Look at the models of video transmitters they have. It's crazy. It's not something I need at this point, but it's just really goes to show that they're on the cutting edge of this video and audio sector. All right, so that is my full review of the Hollyland Lark 150, and I have to say, so many companies reach out to me to test their wireless system, and many times they're all the same. They all have issues, and this is the first time I tested one that's kind of perfect. I could use this from now on forever and not really feel like I'm missing anything. And that's rare, because even though I have so many wireless systems, I always wind up using a corded cable to the camera because I don't want to risk having any glitches or battery dying or something stupid, having to replace the AA's. This right here is just plug and play, and it works. And when you do videos, run a channel or anything like that, it just saves so much time. So yeah, this thing is I can say it's 98% perfect. So yeah, is it in your budget at over $300? That's for you to decide. But yeah, it does exactly what it's supposed to. If you're curious, if you have any questions, if there's anything I left out, definitely leave them below. I'm going to put a link below where you can get this system, hopefully at the best price. Yeah, and also want to thank Hollyland for reaching out to me. If they didn't reach out to me from seeing my channel, I would not have had the opportunity to test this. And that's one beautiful thing about running YouTube. After a while, you get to the point where you can get to try and test and use cool gear like this. So yeah, thanks for watching, and keep in mind, no matter what audio you use for your production, until next time, as always, keep it real.